Hi, everyone. We're going to wait about a minute just to let people join. Hope everyone's having a great new year.
Well, Chris, you've got the best backdrop of all of us right now.
I went outside in my 3-season room. It's a little cold out here. There's a reason they call it 3 seasons.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
funny.
I don't know. I woke up this morning, it was 22 degrees, so I was not spending a lot of time outside. I think we're up to like 40 now, 45.
It's
So,
very chilly here this morning. All right, guys, I think we're going to get started. So, Happy New Year, everyone. Welcome to our Data Center Day 2 operations conversation. Today, we have our founder and CEO, Ken Fee, with us, as well as a very special guest. If you have any questions, please post them in the chat and we'll answer them at the very end of the conversation. And Ken, I'll let you introduce Chris.
hey, thanks, Jen. I've been working with Chris for close to 20 years in his many roles at Cisco. I think we started around the same time. And his current assignment is as a Nexus Dashboard specialist for Cisco North America. And I thought it'd be good to have him on and discuss some of the common customer problems that we see, not before a customer buys something, but once they deploy their new Nexus equipment, new data center, whether it's on-prem or in a colo or out in the cloud. But how we've been working together to bring solutions that have a quantifiable business impact on operations, not just getting it sold and getting it installed. Chris, I'll throw it to you for.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate the partnership that you and I have had, and with BTA, and I'm just happy that we've been able to work on solving a lot of problems for our customers together over the years.
Yeah, cool. And that's I love working in partnership with people. That's always been how we've gone to market, is to partner with people like Cisco, resellers, our customers, obviously. And our topic today is day 2 ops. What happens after you've gone through this big bang of design, deploy, you've migrated workloads onto your new data center fabric, and day 2 is where customers spend most of their time, and it has a tremendous impact not only on uptime, but the company revenue generation, customer service, and generally the amount of sleep that teams get at night. If the data center fabric is stable and always available, people sleep better. But when there are challenges, it really tends to ruin their day. And I think we can both really talk to deploying that new data center, whether it's in that colo or a cloud migration. And people don't think about Cisco always as a cloud company, but there's a tremendous amount there. But anytime you're making any kind of change, it's a major undertaking, and it takes customers months, if not years, to get through them. And you have any thought on that, Chris? You're muted, Chris.
Yeah, thank you. Having been in IT, myself, and really being able to work with hundreds of customers over the years, we see a lot of tools, a lot of effort go into planning and deployment, but we don't really see the same level of effort or expenditure on what to do the day after you're done. Really the name of what we're talking about today, day 2. The big research firms show the cost to downtime is anywhere between $4,500 and $5,600 per minute. Whether you agree with that value or not, it is the most expensive part of owning and running a network. And that's really what we're trying to help customers with. Companies, they tend to spend a lot of time and money on performance monitoring, and it's certainly a valuable tool. But these tend to be reactive in nature, meaning they really don't provide value until something breaks. They really focus on helping find the problem, not prevent it.
Right. Yeah.
Machine learning and analytics has really changed the game for everybody. And so what we've really done is just take decades of knowledge and expertise and built that into your network. It's constantly looking for potential issues, whether those are configuration or failures. And then not only is it doing that, but it's also making a recommendation on how to fix it. So, for example, my first car had a red low oil light. We called them a dunce light back then, if you're old enough to remember it. But once that went on, it was pretty much too late. You didn't have oil and your engine was probably damaged. So we think about today's cars, they have sophisticated computers and that monitor thousands of parameters. And it really allows mechanics to pinpoint and diagnose a problem a lot of times before they even happen. So they can look at what's going on. We're really, in essence, taking that mechanic and putting it into that computer. And that's really what we're doing here. What I would say is, and I'll finish with this thought, technology only goes so far. And one of the biggest challenges that I see repeatedly in customers of all sizes is the ability for IT to get the time to deploy Nexus Dashboard. And make it part of their day-to-day operations, really get it integrated in there. But once they do see that the amount of sleep, like you said, is so important. They do see that get much better.
Yeah, no, sleep is good. And, I'd like to, kind of maybe go back and talk about, these, you mentioned monitoring and visibility. And, I can tell you, we do, 100 projects a year easily. And every customer we go into has a different collection of tools, and many have one of every tool, and tool proliferation is a problem. In fact, we just finished an assessment for a customer. Different groups in ops had different sets of tools that a lot of them did the same thing, or some of them gave them part of the information, but not all of the information. And then you mentioned AI and ML around, using those tools for, some predictive analytics, looking at trends of bandwidth consumption over time. And, it's not that, the problem I've seen is that customers have lots of tools, but as you mentioned, they don't focus on a tool or say, this is how we're going to monitor the network. These are the KPIs. They just use those tools when there's a problem, as opposed to living, checking on it daily, hourly, every 10 minutes, whatever it may be. But, what's your thought on tool proliferation and predictive analytics? How does that help save time? How does it save downtime?
Well, I think really the goal that I see is how do we switch the equation, right? We, again, based on my own experience in IT and helping others in IT is, we see something breaks, something realizes it breaks. Typically a user, it could be a customer, it could be an employee. They reach out, they create a trouble ticket, it goes to a whole bunch of people. That in itself takes a tremendous amount of time. And if you're measuring dollars per minute, just that stage could be hours before you realize that there's a problem. Then that's when we start looking at these tools. Nobody in every NOC I ever go into, there's these beautiful graphs and they look great. But nobody's looking at them unless it's red. Right. And then all of a sudden, then they dive down. So what you end up, and what I've seen really all the time, is this tool proliferation creates contradictory data sometimes. I'm a network guy. Mine says one thing. You're the server guy. Yours says another. The security guy says another. We have our own individual tool sets, and they don't necessarily agree. And so that creates conflict on the human side, typically finger pointing, or you're really not sure where the problem may be. So
it's a source of truth issue.
Absolutely. So not only does each team have a tool problem, where the tool I bought gives me 9 out of 10 metrics and the other one gives me 8 out of 10, and somewhere in between I get the whole truth. But then each team has their own set of tools, and then you just see a lot of money really, in my opinion, being wasted really ultimately, and nothing switches that equation from fixing the problem before it happens. They're always reactive tools.
Yeah. And, reactive tools, and kind of the old adage. I kind of started down this DevOps journey maybe 7-8 years ago at this point in my life. Early 2014, I'm trying to understand these concepts, and I read a book, and it was a DevOps troubleshooting book, and it was really interesting, the concept of blame the thing that you know the least about. And so
true.
the thing that got blamed a lot was DNS and the network. Those always got blamed for application performance issues.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, there were lots of great uptime tools, but there weren't lots of great correlative tools. I think the tool maturity has really accelerated in the last 3-5 years or so, and and the ability to not only have a level of constant visibility, but that predictive analytics piece is huge. Being able to do capacity management, know that, hey, I'm consuming X% of my bandwidth. I might need to add some additional links, or I'm looking at some additional, my latency is going up here. I need to understand why. How do I get to the root cause of that problem? Or, somebody opens a trouble ticket for poor performance because, for Oracle, and turns out it's not a network performance problem. It might be a disk problem. It might be an IO problem. But the network teams have not been great at being able to present back to the business, hey, here's our network, here's our SLAs, here are our KPIs, and the network's functioning fine. Our round trip latency from data center to data center is well within the accepted standard for our deployed apps. And that opens up a whole nother can of worms, because what is the accepted standard for latency for an app? That's where we spend a lot of time with customers on specific use cases and performance requirements and getting that mapped out. But once you have that mapped out, you can take off that firefighter hat and put on your analyst coat, your capacity management coat. How do you do compliance? Configuration drift is it's interesting. We've deployed hundreds of Nexus 9K fabrics over the last 7-8 years, and we'll go in, we'll work with a customer, we'll educate them, we'll get them down a path, we'll get them migrated, and then we come back a year or 2 years later to check in and see how they're doing. Sometimes they get stranded, or they had some personnel turnover, and there wasn't, they didn't formalize and standardize their provisioning processes. They didn't automate it. And what's the first step to automating something?
Standardizing.
You got to standardize things. And that, and if you're not standardized, it's really hard to prove compliance. So if you're in a PCI, PII, HIPAA, high trust, any of these environments, business critical environments, if you're handling personal information or credit card information, you've got to have some assurance there. And these are all things that I've seen customers get frustrated with. But they're all things that can be dealt with. And Nexus Dashboard has been a great tool. We've seen it really kind of grow and mature over the last few years. Started out as a collection of a number of different products, but I think it's turned into a platform that gives customers a launching point for data center networking visibility, not just within the data center, but between the data centers, and what those paths look like.
Right. Yeah, one thing I'd add to what you said, and we talked about looking for failures before they happen, and that's certainly important. But one of the other things that's really powerful is, what is the change I'm getting ready to do going to do? Is there a way for me to simulate a change before I implement that change? And that's something that really has been unprecedented. We would plan, we would do our due diligence, we would present it to a change committee, they would approve it based on what we think is going to happen. Now we can actually go through that whole process, simulate it. It doesn't affect anything, and we can present those results to the change committee with really high confidence of what will happen in fact. And that was really how the product started, was, can we do what we want to do, and did it do what we asked it to do? And that was actually the name of the product, Candid, back then. And that's really what it does. And so it's not only failures we're trying to prevent, but it's also human, or changes that cause a problem. And can we make the change that we're going to ask of the fabric?
Cool. Well, that's awesome. So, how do customers get started with Nexus Dashboard?
Well, that's where I think BTA is absolutely essential to really bridge between the knowledge and experience gap and get the tools deployed quickly, correctly, and most importantly, getting training to the customer so they know how to use them. I think
Yeah.
that's the most important piece.
Yeah, and that's, for us, our focus is customer adoption and enablement, and we take them up to a point. And what we've really focused our business efforts on, over the last few years is helping customers and meeting customers where they are, whether they want to self-manage or they want some advisory services where we're more like an architecture escalation coach, or being able to provide some a fully managed option. And those are kind of the gambit we run. But you're spot on that if you don't train people to it and you don't define the vision and define the process for, this is how we're going to operate, this is what we're going to measure. If you're not measuring something, you can't tell where you've come from and where you're going to. And that's really been huge for us. Chris, did you have any other comments before we just hit the 15-minute mark a minute or so ago? But any other thoughts that you wanted to share with the team here?
No, I just say you have an army of people that are here to ensure your success. Between your skill and expertise and your customer interaction and our own, and we the model, we back you guys up. We're there for our customers, but there's a ton of resources and we're happy to provide them.
Great.
Just ask.
Okay. Well, thanks, Chris. I appreciate you coming and joining us. Jen, did we have any questions from the audience? Anybody drop anything in the chat?
We didn't have any questions dropped in the chat. And as I usually say, it's because, you guys explain things so well that, there's a load of information there. And if you do have any more questions or want to know how the solution applies to your business, we'd really like to invite you to register for a Nexus Dashboard demo so you can more deeply dive into the features and just see for yourself if this is a good decision for you. The link to register is in the comments, and we look forward to showing you how it all works. Also, a big thank you to Chris Barrett for joining us today, sharing some great insights on day 2 data center ops. And as always, thank you for joining today.
Great. Thanks, guys.
Thanks again.